Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions I've drawn from American history. And you may not agree with my conclusions, but the fact that you have an opinion is important from studying American history. So, we're going to talk about Grover Cleveland's second term today. And Harrison left Cleveland with a continuing economic depression and the Panic of 1893. Not wanting to scare the electorate, Cleveland had much of his upper jaw removed due to cancer, an operation that was performed on his yacht. In his second term, Coxey's army and large band of unemployed workers marched on Washington demanding public works projects to fully employ the nation. The phrase used by my grandparents, quote, enough food to feed Coxey's army, which was sometimes mentioned at dinners, comes from this event. Cleveland asked for a repeal of the Sherman Silver Purchase Act and got it with the help of Republicans. He managed to antagonize the public with the stoppage of the annexation of Hawaii after Harrison's minister had aided in a coup that overthrew the government of Queen Liliuokalani with the help of U.S. Marines. Cleveland withdrew the treaty for annexation, stating that the U.S. government's actions had not been honorable or just. He then asked Congress to help him find a way to restore the Queen to her rightful power in a manner consistent with, quote, American honor, integrity, and morality. He stood firm on what he thought was right. He sent in federal troops to quell a violent railway strike in 1894 and had Eugene Debs, a socialist leader of the American Railway Union, arrested for conspiracy and violating a federal injunction. He approved a tariff reduction bill, which called for an income tax on incomes above $4,000. The bill was amended more than 600 times, lowering the tariff reduction, which angered the president, although he signed the bill. The Supreme Court ruled the income tax unconstitutional. It would take a later amendment to the Constitution to change that. By January of 1895, only $40 million worth of gold remained in the U.S. Treasury. Cleveland asked for help from New York bankers headed by J.P. Morgan to purchase new issues of bonds for gold and reverse the flow of gold out of the country. And the bankers, in exchange for this control that they got from this request over the U.S. economy, bailed out the government by delivering more than $65 million to the U.S. Treasury. This was an ominous note for the country's future dependency upon large banking organizations and those entities' involvement in foreign affairs that reaped a harvest of destruction by their support of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and in Hitler's rise to power. Cleveland interceded in a boundary dispute between Great Britain and Venezuela over the border of British Guiana. His public rhetoric against Great Britain did not result in the war some had feared, but this jingoism, as it is called, when one vigorously supports one's country at the expense of others, did not alleviate the economic crisis, and the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in 1896 repudiated Cleveland's policies and adopted a free silver plank. Written by Nebraskan William Jennings Bryan, a great and principled man and a born again Christian, but rather naive in many things, as great men of principle often are. Bryan is one of American history's good guys, but often these knights in shining armor don't fully grasp the issues they stand for. Bryan, rather than Cleveland, became the Democrats' candidate in the next election against McKinley. Now, Rose Cleveland, the president's sister and a well educated scholarly woman who would silently conjugate Greek verbs while standing board and greeting lines, became the White House hostess as the president was a bachelor until he married 21-year-old Frances Folsom, the first time a president had been married in the White House. In spite of the nearly 30-year difference in age between the president and his wife, Frances became one of the most popular first ladies of the century. Of course, Cleveland had to deal with gossip such as centered around his fathering an illegitimate child by a woman he never married, and accusations in the press that he beat his attractive young wife, which both denied. She predicted correctly that he would return to the White House 4 years after he left it, which he did. Now, Caroline Harrison had tried to make structural changes to the White House, but Congress denied most of her more luxurious ones. She did manage to have electricity installed to repair the floors and furniture. The states admitted were Colorado in 1876, North and South Dakota, Montana, and Washington in 1889, Idaho and Wyoming in 1890, and Utah in 1896. Constitutional Amendment 15, ratified in 1870, guaranteed every citizen the right to vote, regardless of race or previous condition of servitude. Now we're going to talk about some evangelists in this period next, and some things having to do with the Bible. So thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you'll study American history and come to your own conclusions.